I became an artist through a series of experiments from the age of about 3. The first thing I did was actually paint my dad's headlights on the car with white gloss paint. I was very proud of myself for that. The next thing I did was actually paint with crayons. I drew Big Nanny on the nice white hallway that Dad had freshly painted. So it was quite obvious then that I was always going to do something in the lines of drawing and painting. As I came through school, it was very clear that that was my strength. Creative writing, painting, modelling, anything to do with clay. I love working with sculpture. I have collected over the years a huge pile of what most people would look as rubbish, and I see as this exciting collection of clutter, basically, that I look at and think, oh yeah, I could make something of that, which is where some of the mediums I use comes into play. Travel has influenced my work hugely. I'm very inspired by the beauty of the land and the earth. The mountains, the lakes are wonderful. I'm always trying to think of a way in which I can recreate that without it being too typical. I want to try and move away from that. There are so many fabulous artists here who do a good job of that. I would like to try and use another medium to catch that, which again is where the trees come into play, because this is based in central Otago and it's a much softer, I mean, people say it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere, but it is based around here and the light. So I try and get that into play. So yeah, being here, that travel has definitely influenced my work now. Other influences have been America was a huge influence on my work. Going to an art festival every year, the Burning Man Art Festival, seeing people just create these huge sculptures and creational pieces with no fear. And eliminating the fear is the hardest thing, I think, for an artist, because you fear that you're not going to make enough money and that your painting's not going to be good enough and no one's going to like your work, and what if you can't produce enough work to make a living? And that all was eliminated through travel and seeing other people's experiences, and then becoming these creative blossoms in their own right. A lot of this work is done from memory, so I could walk down a grassy lane and I'll look to my right and I'll see some lovely soft mountains in the background and the trees and the light streaming through, and I'll go snap in my head, and I'll get home and I'll sketch it, and then if I've got my phone on me or something, I'll take a quick shot so that I've got the colours. So I'm basically inspired by almost everything I see. I want to paint everything, which is frustrating because I don't have enough time in the world to paint everything. Being an artist in Queenstown, I didn't experience challenges in the same way as maybe other artists have. I've had a huge amount of support from local gallery, from Art Bay, who just have basically discovered me and promoted me as a professional artist. So I think I've been incredibly lucky with that. The paintings that I'm working on at the moment is this series here, which is the light changing series. These paintings start from a very small size, which work as studies, which I then work up and up to a large painting. This is a medium-sized one. I have an enormous painting in Art Bay Gallery, which is 2 metres by 1.8 metres, and that takes up one whole wall. And the idea with these paintings is that you can actually walk, you feel like you're going to be walking through the woods. So this one is unfinished, very unfinished. This is at the first stage where I'm mapping out the colours and I'm figuring out where the trees are going to be. I use a technique of layering and washing off and adding on paint and taking paint off. They have to be painted outside in their first instance because they make so much mess and they use so much paint, and they need to be able to drain and drip dry. Once I've got them to this stage, I can then bring them inside and I can work the details on. The details come completely as I paint them. I don't preempt where the trees are going to go other than what the paint has done when I'm putting the washes on. So the medium I use here is acrylic. These parts here, this is a very dense gold pigment which I source throughout New Zealand, America. Whenever I'm in America, I always go and raid all the art shops for different gold pigments in different lights the gold reflects the light and looks like the light coming through the trees, hence the light changing series. So I'm working on this for the current exhibition at Art Bay Gallery, and there will be about 8 or 9 in this series. So the idea is you walk through the trees, so the exhibition's a walk in the woods. The other medium I've been working on is, big sigh because it's so time consuming, I have a collection of vintage buttons. The vintage buttons is a very time consuming exercise, but I find that when I finish them, they're very satisfying. I've used Liz Taylor, Sophia Loren, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is the one that I'm working on right now. Portraits as a button mosaic, large portraits. It's completely experimental. I've never worked in buttons before. I had a huge heap of buttons, as I talked about with my collection of rubbish. That was one of the things that I had. So I just looked at it and thought, right, I'm going to do some portraits with these. But it just kind of popped in my head. I don't even know where I got that idea from. I'm really excited about the exhibition at Art Bay Gallery. It's just such a wonderful place to showcase work. The light in the gallery is fabulous, which is what I need for these paintings to be shown properly. They will go in any light in the home, but they do need some light source on them, either a spotlight or natural light will give a different effect. Art Bay Gallery is just this huge space which I need to exhibit these, and I'm really excited about that. The idea is we'll put them into a sort of corridor that you can walk through, so you can actually walk through the woods. So it's the first time we've had an exhibition at Art Bay Gallery with this work, so I'm excited about that being showcased to, well, we have about 200 people on the invite list, so that should be quite exciting. And I'm also sharing the exhibition with Emma Butler, which is very exciting because her work is based around Arrowtown and the colours are wonderful and they go very well. Our work sits very well together.
God's recreation of the new day.